Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Johnson, editorial board chair for the CDO magazine. Today, I have the great honor and privilege of interviewing Chief Strategy Officer Blake Brannon with OneTrust. Blake, welcome to the interview.
Thanks, Mark. It's great to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Before we get into the interview kind of questions that we've got lined up here, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and about OneTrust, how it came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you said, Mark, I'm Chief Strategy Officer here at OneTrust, and my background is in engineering and software and technology. To give you the background and story on OneTrust, it has been an amazing past 5 years of growing and building the company. We've become the fastest growing company per the Inc. 500. We've gone from 0 to 10,000 customers and employ over 2,000 employees around the world. 13 different global offices. So it's been, as you said, a rocket and a bit of a fun ride. The background for myself personally is I was one of the individuals that helped build a mobile management security company called AirWatch. And during the course of that journey, we were helping companies do bring your own device kind of programs at work. So if you remember back in the days where you had a BlackBerry that had your work stuff on it, and then as iPhones and Android devices started to come to life, you had a personal phone, and you were kind of like, why am I carrying two phones around? This makes no sense. And you kind of wanted your work stuff on your personal phone, and businesses were looking at the employee and productivity gains of all kinds of stuff that you could do with that. So we helped you put that work stuff on the personal phone and still secure and protect it. Now, what we stumbled upon is a little bit of what opened up our eyes to this emerging privacy and broader governance market that was starting to build up in the late, let's say 20 or early 2010s. And on a phone, if you recall, there used to be in the early days, these very kind of concerning malicious apps, like the flashlight app on Android that rooted your phone and would take over. And very common for IT was to do things like, hey, if you're going to bring that personal phone into my office, I need to whitelist or blacklist kind of scary apps that could be malware, rogues onto the network. Right. And people always used to think about, hey, IT can read my personal text messages or emails or things like that and see my photos. And they never really could because of some of the sandboxing. But what they could do is see like application lists. And you think, well, what's the harm in that? Well, by simply viewing the apps you have on your phone, I can get some pretty personal and sensitive data derived about you. So, for example, your political association, your sexual orientation, your religion, your dietary, you have health conditions, lots of things from just knowing an app name on the phone. So this unlocked like all these very big and growing to be bigger privacy problems. And as GDPR and some of these data protection laws were coming to enforcement, we saw the opportunity that this was bigger than just a feature inside of a mobile application software we were building. This was like a whole broader problem that the industry did not have the technology set up to sort of tackle how to handle it. And that's what we've been on the journey for doing over the past 5 years.
So it sounds like your stakeholders are not only the enterprise organizations who need to ensure that they're complying with privacy regulations, but also the individual, consumers and users out there in the community who need to depend on their privacy and security being governed and managed properly. Is that
100%? Yeah. I mean, have you seen an Apple ad lately?
Yeah.
Privacy, privacy. That's iPhone.
Yeah.
Privacy. All these things. So it has become this, what used to be compliance exercise in an organization to, wait a minute, marketing's got to be involved. This is like a competitive differentiator for us in the market. And, what used to be cybersecurity fear and security breaches and all that has kind of pivoted a little bit into, wait a minute, these are data misuse problems, not security problems. This is ethical misuse of data as an issue more so than just a raw security problem. So absolutely.
You brought Apple into the conversation, and this isn't necessarily a question on the script, but I'm curious. There's a lot of public content out there now in the media about Apple's newest release and of their iOS and its ability, I guess it's 14 I don't know, it's 14 point something, its ability to scan for photos on your
Right.
phone. Yeah. So how is that sort of complicating the landscape?
Well, it's complicating the landscape because this is a new privacy enhancing technology. And, without saying it's right or wrong or anything like that, I think the world is trying to figure out all these balances that we have to do with saying, how do we balance privacy with protection and safeguard and well being
Right.
of society? And what's going to be just fascinating and what we're so excited about is there's so many there's a decade plus worth of just game changing technologies that are going to be developed that are really going to move the needle in terms of privacy enhancing things. So that's a bit of on the technology side. I think what's so exciting.
Yeah. So when we think about data governance, how does that fit into OneTrust privacy rules?
Yeah. So the first initiative when you went to tackle, okay, we care about GDPR, we care about privacy. What do we do? The first problem or kind of business project initiative you did was what is called a data map. And a data map is really understanding what data you have and how you're using it so you can associate risk with that, risk from a privacy perspective generally. Once you do that exercise, though, you realize, man, I've got some really insightful information about the company here. We had many of our early customers tell us for the first time they saw a view of what do we have as a business and how are we using it and what departments own that information.
Mhm.
It sounds trivial or kind of like, why doesn't everyone just know that? But understanding what do you even have and why do you have it is pretty powerful of an interesting thing. The next thing that you did once you had that map was you would build in operational processes to conduct what are called privacy impact assessments. And what that tangibly means is if I want to use data for a new purpose, like inside my software development products or as part of just this new project or initiative, I have to conduct privacy risk analysis and understand what controls and mitigations are in place, what disclosures or things have to be in place before we can do that. And, am I violating or creating new risks for the business because I'm doing data transfers across country boundaries, various
Mhm.
things like that. So operationally, someone's sort of saying, hey, we'd like to use this or do this that's new. And you've got a team of people sort of analyzing the risk of that and saying, you can do that, but I need you to go do these things to mitigate that risk.
Mhm.
Um, what started to come to life, and a little bit of going back to the Apple statement, is people started to realize that we don't want to do this because GDPR might fine us and we'll get in trouble with the law or get a penalty. There was this broader sort of initiative that actually became a board level importance of we don't want to just be compliant to the law. We want to ensure that we are trustworthy as a company.
Mhm.
And I'll talk about that a little more later, but that sort of makes it a bit of a business driver and initiative. So you get buy-in and stakeholder buy-in across the company at a broader level. It's not just, oh, it's a compliance thing. How do we get that cost to zero and make the problem go away? It made it this important initiative. And when you start to zoom out from the fact of we're not trying to just rubber stamp be compliant to GDPR, we are actually building the foundation of a data governance platform. We want to understand what data we have. We want to operationalize the use of that data and put the right safeguards in place so that we can use more of it, but mitigate the risk and harm that can come from not having laws and rules and things in place for the business on how they can use that. So
Absolutely.
that's what drove us into this.